Hey guys, what's going on? It's been quite a while since I've made a video on the Turbo IS300 here. I apologize for that. Anyway, I figured it was probably time to make a quick update video here and bring you guys back up to speed on what's going on with the car. So if you watched my last video, you probably saw I had the car basically all buttoned up. I had it on the dyno and I was trying to crank up the boost and make some good power, but I kept running into ignition issues. So while I was on the dyno, I was kind of able to band-aid those issues by doing a couple of things, one of which was I reduced the coil dwell in the AEM settings, so that helped a little bit up to a certain extent. And then I was also able to reduce the spark plug gap, which also helped, but only up to, it was like 24 pounds is really where it started having some serious ignition issues, and I just couldn't push it any further. So both of those things are what I would consider kind of band-aids to the problem, and certainly not optimal for making good power, right? In order to make really good power, you want a big, strong spark. That's just how it is. So needless to say, I was pretty disappointed and discouraged at the outcome of the dyno session, mainly because the car was already equipped with an upgraded ignition system, which was the LQ9 coils. So in the 2JZ world, the LQ9 coil system is considered an upgrade, but it's crazy because a lot of people seem to have very negative feedback, negative results, and a lot of people also have very good feedback and good results. So I'm not sure why there is such a wide, variance or discrepancy there as far as the outcome of installing those coils, but my personal results seem to fall obviously more on the negative side. So after the dyno session, I basically brought the car back here, parked it in the garage, and I really didn't drive it much over the course of the last few months. I did take it out for a couple cruises here and there in the morning early when it was nice and cool, and the car ran great. As long as I kept it under 20 to 20 pounds of boost, it ran really good, it ran really strong. But that's not really good enough for me, and I know I wanted to turn it up. So I had to figure out what to do, and I had to figure out a real solution to the problem. So I didn't want to give up on the LQ9 coils right away. I thought there's still a chance that it could be a wiring issue, it could be something else going on in the car that's causing these LQ9 coils to perform poorly. And so I reached out to Mojo Performance, which is the company that sells this coil conversion kit, and I tried to collaborate with them to see if there's anything I'm missing. I reached out to the company that built the engine harness. I got the specifications for all the wiring, the grounds, the powers, everything relating to the ignition system, the sizing, everything, forwarded that to Mojo, and he basically said, there's nothing here that I see would be a problem. So I tried, one of the things I did try was I ordered some really big 4-gauge ground straps and basically just grounded the crap out of everything in the car. So I grounded the cylinder head to the chassis, the cylinder head to the battery, the cylinder head to the block, and then the block to the chassis. So everything was very well grounded and still had the issue, right? So I knew it wasn't a ground issue, and the coils themselves, the main coil ground is right on the cylinder head, right where Mojo suggests, right where the harness builder suggests. Everything on this car is super clean. I mean, there's no corrosion, there's no rust, there's none of that going on. So I know it's not a ground connection issue or anything silly like that. So I kind of eliminated that from the possible causes to the problem. So after trying the new engine grounds and verifying all of the wiring and going back and forth over the course of a few weeks, back and forth with the harness builder and with Mojo, just trying to find anything to look for or anything that could be causing a problem. And finally I just got kind of fed up with it, and it doesn't help that again a lot of the feedback for the LQ9 coils on the internet is negative. So or reading a lot of the negative reviews, people having basically the same symptoms as me, I said screw it. I ended up just biting the bullet and ordered a IGN-1A coil conversion kit from Induction Performance. So if you've heard anything or know anything about the IGN-1A coils, you probably know they're pretty serious. They're probably the best aftermarket solution as far as a coil is concerned. And like I said, I was just tired of dealing with troubleshooting this ignition system and just wanted something I knew was going to be a permanent solution for anything that I throw at it. So that's why I went with the IGN-1A coils. So in order to install the Induction Performance IGN-1A coil kit on this engine, I had to perform a couple of other modifications. And so I'll kind of pop the hood here and just do a quick walkthrough of the engine bay in its current form. It will probably look a little bit different than the last time you saw it, but hopefully it's for the better, so let's check it out. Alright, so here's the engine bay kind of in its current form, and some pretty big changes happened in here over the course of the last few months, so I'll try to go over them best I can. First off, you can see the Induction Performance coil kit sitting right on top of the engine here. It looks pretty awesome in my opinion. In order to install this kit, I had to change the valve covers. So my old GE valve covers are not compatible with this coil conversion kit, obviously because it uses these valve cover mounting spots for the coil bracket itself. So I had to find some GTE VVTi valve covers, which wasn't too bad. Found them on eBay for a few $100 and ended up just getting them cleaned up. There were a couple of bosses, for mounting provisions on the factory application that I didn't like. They were kind of an eyesore, so I ground down some bosses, cleaned them up, and then got them powder coated, and it turned out pretty good. So most of the images I've seen of this coil kit installed on a 2J, they leave this upper coil cover or upper cam pulley cover, they leave it off, and I'm not a huge fan of that on especially the VVTi engines, because the VVTi cam gear is just kind of ugly in my opinion. It's kind of an eyesore. It doesn't go well with anything else in the engine bay. So I ended up ordering again a GTE VVTi upper coil cover and modifying it to kind of go around the coil bracket so it still bolts up and still covers up that ugly VVTi gear, and I think it turned out pretty well. I've never seen anyone else do this, and I'm pretty happy with the outcome. Again, it's kind of a lot of work to do stuff like that, a little time consuming, but the result is always worth it in my opinion. So also since I changed the valve covers, I had to change my entire oil catch tank situation. So you can see I've got 10 AN lines running forward, and they kind of go down under the intake here over to a oil catch tank that I built just out of 1/8 inch sheet aluminum. You can see it's got dual 10 AN inlets and then just a single 10 AN outlet that feeds back into the intake. So it's a recirculating system just like my old one,
And I did that because I'm not a huge fan of just the oil vapor smell that is caused by a catch tank that is vented to the atmosphere. It when you're idling and stationary, you always get a lot of oil smell coming from the engine bay. And so for me, it's worth it just to recirculate it back into the intake. And keep in mind that this is not just, you know, an open tank on the inside. It's actually baffled, and I stuffed it with some stainless steel mesh that should, you know, separate the actual oil from the air before it goes back into the intake, because the last thing you want is to just pull oil residue straight back into the intake and make a mess of the turbo, the charge piping, the intercooler, everything. So another thing that had to be done is, you'll notice the IGN-1A coil connector is not the same as the LQ9. So I had to pull the entire engine harness back out of the car and send it back to the harness builder to be modified for the IGN-1A coils. Luckily, they were able to turn it around pretty quick. It only took them, I think, a few weeks, and I had the harness back and ready to go. So that's kind of the current situation on the car. I actually just barely got it kind of back together last night, and I actually ended up taking it for a ride this morning, and it seems to be running really well. So I'm excited to get it back on the dyno, and with any luck, we will not have any ignition issues this time, and we'll be able to really crank it up and see what we can make for some power. Probably break something else in the process, but that's just that's how it goes. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video. Just wanted to hopefully bring you guys kind of back up to speed. Sorry again, it's been a while since I made a video. I was looking at the weather. It's supposed to cool down this next week, so if it does cool down quite a bit, I'm going to hopefully get the car on the dyno next weekend. So be sure to keep an eye out for some new awesome dyno footage in the future. And as always, let me know if you have any questions or anything. See you guys.